Hi, this is Timothy Zahn, author of Thrawn, and you're listening to Star Wars Reactions. Good for you.
There's been an awakening. Have you felt it?
In 1977, George Lucas formed a legacy.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
Inspired by mythology, his saga has become a passion for many.
Feel the Force around you.
His legend has become our story.
It's true. All.
One of resistance,
We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
rebellion,
Rebellion is built on hope.
and redemption.
I'm a Jedi, like my father before me.
This is Star Wars Reactions.
Remember, the Force will be with you. Always.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Star Wars Reactions. We are so happy you are back and joining us for our continuing coverage of the incredible third and final season of The Bad Batch. We got a fantastic episode to review today. We got so much to say, so much to talk about. Let's not waste any time and let's get this party started. My name, as always, it hasn't changed in the 43 years I've been alive, 44 years, is Aaron Harris. And joining me is the man, the myth, the legend, the 3PO to my R2, the David Modders. David, brother, how's it going?
It is going. I'm excited. I'm excited that we have this guest on tonight. I'm just really pumped. And like he said, he picked a really good one here. And so yeah, I'm ready to react and ready to hear him react. And glad to be recording with both of you.
Oh, perfect. It is going to be a great discussion, David. And of course, it wouldn't be complete without our guest tonight. If you are a fan of Star Wars podcasts, you probably recognize him. He is the host of Force Ghost Conversations. Please welcome Anthony King to the show. Anthony, welcome to Star Wars Reactions.
Aaron, David, thank you so much for having me. It's a true honor to be on the show, and thank you for your kind praise. I hope that I can do this episode the justice and giving some great reactions that it actually deserves.
Well, we definitely appreciate you taking the time to come on and join us. Definitely, it's an honor to have you on. Of course, I know, I love your show. I've been listening. I found it actually toward the end of last year, and I've been listening, and I've enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun, and I'm so I had you on a short list of people I wanted to get on this year, so I'm glad we were able to make that happen. So,
Oh, that's so kind of you. Thank you for having me.
awesome. Well, this week, of course, we're continuing our Bad Batch coverage, looking at this is the 9th episode, isn't it? Episode 9 of season 3 of The Bad Batch, entitled The Harbinger. Of course, this episode was released March 27th, 2024, directed by Stuart Lee and written by Jennifer Corbett. I'm glad they gave me easy names this week. So much easier when they do, but I love them all. The straight from the episode guide synopsis on StarWars.com is: back on Pabu, the Bad Batch is visited by a stranger on behalf of Fennec Shan. She has come to deliver the intel on Encount research, explaining that is a measure of one's potential in the Force. On Omega's urging, she begins to test the young clone in ways of the Force, though the rest of the squad do not trust their guest. And indeed, their suspicions are confirmed when they discover her identity. Asajj Ventress, former Separatist assassin. Unsure of Ventress's intentions, tensions quickly rise, though Omega believes there may be more to Asajj than her past. There we go. They tried to trip me up there with intentions and tensions at the same point. I don't know if you caught my hesitation there. Almost led to a Carabas moment right there, but I caught myself. Oh, perfect. Let's go into initial reactions. Anthony, you're our guest. Floor is yours, my friend. What were your initial reactions to Harbinger?
Well, I think my initial reaction after the episode cuts to black, they start to showcase the wonderful creators and people that work behind the scenes on the show. I think I just sat on my couch and said, huh, that's it. And that's neither bad nor excellent. It's just one of those, and I think it's one of those episodes I've watched it a few times now where I'm just like, I don't have answers to things. And I have a ton of questions, but I'm okay just sitting in the questions that I have. I'm okay kind of just marinating in the possibilities and speculating on them responsibly. Overall, I think this is a really great episode. A lot of fun stuff going on in it, great action sequences. I hope we can talk about that, like kind of hand-to-hand kung fu action sequence that goes on later in the middle part of this episode. But overall, that was kind of just my initial reaction was like, we had spent so much time speculating as a fan base about this episode and looking forward to it, right? As soon as we saw Ventress in the trailer, everyone immediately was like, well, how does she come back? What's her role in this series? What are they going to do? And frankly, I just kind of let it just be a blank slate up until this point, until we got to last week's episode where, I think naturally people were like, okay, who's Fennec Shan calling here? Who are they going to talk about MCal? And in my head, I'm like, okay, that's probably going to be a person that has a midi-chlorian count. So Asajj Ventress is probably your most likely candidate to be contacted on this front. And then it's really the game of, well, is what kind of Ventress are we getting today? Are we getting a more dark side friendly Ventress, or is she going to be more on the light side? And it's one of those things where I don't know where she stands, frankly. She's kind of off on her own path. Is she a nomad? Is she what is she really doing in this post Dark Disciple world that we live in? And I still have questions about how it ties into the book, which I know Star Wars is kind of punted off to future storytelling, so I'm excited for that. But that's generally my first reaction. I think I looked at my wife as we finished the episode, and we both just kind of had this like, huh, all right, that was it kind of reaction.
I can definitely agree with you there, my friend, because I pretty much had that same reaction. I watched the episode, and when it ended, I was sitting there going, huh. I will admit, I'll admit, I did not, I was excited when we saw the trailer and she was there, but I honestly did not think about how she was coming in. I didn't think about speculate how. I kind of figured it would be in a bounty hunter role, since the last time we saw her at the end of the Clone Wars, she was a bounty hunter. But I just kind of left it at that. But for that type of appearance in the trailer, I was expecting a little bit more heavy-handed storytelling. But with that said, still a great episode. We had a lot of great action. We had a lot of fun. We had some of the boat scenes with Asajj and Omega out at sea. Kind of gave me some Resistance vibes back when they were on the Colossus and stuff. So it was fun. It was a good episode. It did leave a lot more questions than it did answer, which is new for this season for sure.
Right.
But I enjoyed it. I really did. A lot of fun in the episode, and a lot of head scratching too. So David, brother, what were your initial reactions to Harbinger?
3 for 3. When Anthony said what he said and you said it, I did. I kind of, like Anthony mentioned, it just scrolled to credits and I'm like, huh, okay. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. I'll go with it. But I'll say this. Aaron, you can vouch for me. Anthony, Aaron's going to vouch for me. I think it was after last week's episode, it ended, and I texted him and I said, it's got to be Asajj Ventress that Fennec is talking to. Why? Because of the musical cue. I listened to a number of different podcasts, but I did text Aaron. I said, I'm calling her right now. It's not Boba, it's not Cad, and sure enough, it was Asajj. And again, I don't know, is that great a prediction? We saw her in the preview, but I'll tell you, I listened to other podcasts and none were really leaning towards it being her yet. They're kind of like, oh, it's going to be Cad, it'll be Boba. Mm-hmm. But, I told Aaron, or at least I hope Aaron's proud of me for hearing that musical. Aaron's a big Kevin Kiner fan. He's gotten me into the music and stuff from Williams and Kiner and all those people. But so I want to say that first and foremost, I called it. I usually never call these things right. So boom. Second, I ended the episode more confused in terms of how, Ventress is back. We can talk about that a little bit more in terms of Dark Disciple, like Anthony mentioned. I went back through the whole book before the season started, and had read it and then did the Audible this time and really enjoyed it. Going back through those all those scripts that got made into a book. But it's interesting. She had made the statement that she had lives left, which I took as a bit of a hint that we'll learn why and how. And then sure enough, like Anthony said, I think there's an article at StarWars.com today that says that they're going to talk about it in future storytelling. They didn't say the Bad Batch. So like Anthony said, I think they're punting it and they're going to let other people run with it. But third, I'm telling you this, I think Greg McLaughlin from the Rebel Base Card podcast is right. He's been talking about how Pabu's going to get carpet bombed. Oh my gosh. After this and how fast she found it. Oh my goodness. I'm nervous for Pabu. So anyways, those are just some of my initial thoughts, and we can get into some of the talking points and hit some of the stuff Anthony mentioned too. So there we go.
Very good. Very good. And you're right. You did call it, and you even hinted at it on last week's episode as well, without saying what you were thinking. You hinted at your idea. And of course I know, because you had texted me almost immediately. I could tell when you finished the episode because you immediately texted me. And it was a good catch with the music. I didn't catch it, which was shocking.
That's the only reason, because they muffled the voice, right? All three of us. You can't tell who it is, but the musical cue, I'm like, wait a minute, I've learned from Aaron Harris. You better be listening close.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that you do, and that's one thing that's awesome about Star Wars is they will throw little hints in there like that, which can make the speculation run rampant. You throw a couple notes into a piece that has nothing to do with it, and you're like, well, now what's going on here? And of course, the mastery of Kevin Kiner and the music of the Kiners is just unparalleled. And they have done such a tremendous job on this show, and Rebels and Clone Wars and everything else they've touched. It's just you can't. It's unmatched. So let's go into these talking points, which Kiners just became an impromptu talking point there. But of course, we have to talk about literally what we've been talking about this whole time so far is the return of Asajj Ventress. This was something they teased in the trailer, which everybody freaked out about. I lost my mind when I saw the trailer and saw Ventress. It was amazing. And of course that just kind of shook up the whole fandom, because everybody knows, not everybody knows, if you are a book reader, and you know that in the novel Dark Disciple, she died. I mean, yeah, you're left believing she's dead because she's dead. And of course that created controversy there, retconning this, retconning that, and they're rewriting it. And so it's just one of those things. What are we looking at? What are we dealing with here? So there's a lot to talk about in the Asajj Ventress package. So let's start with just simply the return of Asajj when it comes to this story. She shows up in the cave where Omega is and just comes drifting out of the shadows behind Omega and catches Omega completely off guard. Obviously, she has not lost her touch from the Clone Wars. I can't tell you how many times we've seen her just glide out of the darkness or sink into the darkness while trying to get away or attack Kenobi and Skywalker. And it's just, was fun to see that face come out of the shadow again. Let's talk about Anthony. Asajj Ventress returned. We see her in the cave. Tell me your thoughts on that scene and her return, and how you felt there.
Well, I was like, my immediate reaction was, okay, this is the reveal. This is who's going to be the person that Fennec Shan spoke to. I think it was a good catch by David, noting that there was the musical theme there in cue there to hint at Ventress's return. So, David, sounds like you were keyed in more to Ventress's return this week than most. So then it was a complete surprise for me, frankly, that she did appear in this. And, she's sporting a new look, a new outfit based off of her Dark Disciple look, of course. But for people that had just seen her in the Clone Wars, and that was the last time you'd seen her up to this point, maybe you haven't read Dark Disciple at all, or you just weren't keeping up with other types of canon. Then, she's got a whole, new look, new longer hair and all that stuff. Just true to form Ventress, I think. I think they kept her in terms of how the dictation of the voice and the writing was very similar to how she was portrayed in the Clone Wars, with a bit of hint more of the Dark Disciple stuff thrown in there, I would say. I think they've done good justice to the book so far and how she was portrayed, especially in these early scenes. It was, it's interesting that it's from the, the perspective of Omega pretty much, when you're like, we don't know if she is good or not at this point. And that's, that I think that's for the, to be learned later, obviously at this point. It's never, you don't know if this is good or bad. This is a situation that she says to Batcher, we go in this cave all the time, there's nothing to be afraid of. And and then boom, there comes out Ventress, and then the Bad Batch goes on full alert. And thankfully Batcher, the best friend of the group of all of them, goes out to warn the others that they are that Omega's in danger. So I think it was a good return to form. Again, it's just one of those deals where this character is so on the fence, frankly. I don't know where she's going from this point. I don't know what her motivations are, what brings her to Pabu, how she was able to find them. These are the questions that this series answers, especially in these particular opening scenes with her, she's asking around about M count. Why are you asking around about this? No one's really being truthful until Omega starts to spill the beans too much. Just some great banter back and forth between them that I really miss, that Ventress brought to the table so much in those early Clone Wars episodes.
Very good. Very good. Now, David, of course, with Ventress returned, we see almost a different side of Ventress than we're used to seeing in the Clone Wars. In the Clone Wars, she was this assassin for the separatists, and she was always had her red lightsabers out, fighting fighting actually Obi-Wan was her favorite foil, I believe. Obi-Wan, and then of course Anakin. They were always in battle, going at odds with each other. And toward the end of the series, into season 5, we see her in a bounty hunter role, because she's been kind of forced off after the events with the Night Sisters and everything. So we've seen her progress, but the character of Ventress we got in this episode is very different than the Ventress we were getting in the Clone Wars. She still had that era, that mystique, that smugness to her, but she felt more, in my opinion, more Jedi than the Asajj we got before. She was pensive. She was reserved. She didn't immediately go into a fight when the clones tried to, get heavy-handed with her. She felt more Jedi-ish, in my opinion. What are your thoughts on that, David? And about, of course, on Asajj's return?
Yeah, Anthony nailed it. I mean, like, if that book came out 9 years ago, and I don't know if years ago, I mean, when Aaron and I were recording, it was always one of my top novels. I don't know if it was for you, Anthony.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Once Lucasfilm was sold to Disney in 2012, this comes out 2015, and again, I'm looking at it on my bookshelf right there, and I read it, and I think it's important to kind of bridge from what Anthony said to what you said, Aaron, is like Anthony mentions, if you look at the cover of it, you see Asajj with that hair, like you see in this episode. She's got a yellow lightsaber. So here's a yellow lightsaber. Before we see Rey with a yellow lightsaber at the end of The Rise of Skywalker, right? And so again, just like Anthony said, you see her in that outfit, in that look, and so on. Now, here's the thing. Like I know I think, like I said, I'm really kind of paraphrasing what Anthony. The motive, we don't know it, right? But when you get into this book, and this is 8 scripts, I believe, if I remember, I have to look at the front of the book again. It's 8 unproduced episodes, which I very much want produced. I would love to see them, but during the course of that, it's kind of like what Aaron said. You start to really like her more than what you saw in the Clone Wars as a separatist assassin, or you see her going back after Dooku, with a couple of her Night Sisters, compadres there. But you do see this progression in her character, and I like her so much more by the end of Dark Disciple and in her team up with Quinlan Vos. And I don't know, like, of course, now I wish the audible of Dark Disciple was actually Nika Futterman doing Ventress, but Mark Thompson does it. And I'm telling you, I think from reading it back in 2015 and now going back through it and doing audible with Mark Thompson, it's better because hearing Ventress's voice, and he does a pretty good job. He's so talented. I like the character more by the end of the book versus, I think, like Anthony said, a lot of people, the last time they saw her was, back in the Clone Wars. But this book is critical to see that progression and her moving more towards what you said, Aaron, which is a little bit more Jedi, a little bit more pensive. You can see her wanting to help Omega, and really, she is a harbinger, right? She is telling the Bad Batch, you guys are, you need to leave now, and I don't think she's, I don't think she's fooling. She's like, you have no clue. They're coming. The Emperor, you don't know what the Emperor is doing. You don't know what they're trying to do here with this M-count. And so, anyways, I really enjoyed seeing her back. I was going to mention, after going back through Dark Disciple, Star Wars timelines. I was looking in that back before the season started, and it does list her as dead. She, the way, you want me to talk about how she dies in that? Should I do that, Aaron, real quick? It's old. There's
Spoilers.
No spoiler. She saves Quinlan Vos from being force lightning by like Dooku, and Dooku just lays it all on her, ends up killing her. A few months later, you see Quinlan Vos and Obi-Wan Kenobi go to Dathomir, okay, and we see them take her into like a pool, right, of water inside. I think one of the statues or caves that Mother Talzin and the Night Sisters had built before, and they lay her body in the water, and she slowly slips below the water, and that's the last that we see of her. So, I don't know. Dathomir, we see Dathomir at the end of Ahsoka series. This is a pretty much a hotbed of action here going on. It's coming back, but that's what we see. So. I don't get a sense that Bad Batch is going to explain to us why she's back. I could see a short series with her, maybe her own series, and go from there. But I was excited to see her back. I've always liked this character. And one more thing I'll say is Nika Futterman. I love her voice. I love her as Asajj Ventress, and so it's just I could listen to her talk like Asajj Ventress all day long. So. There you go. How about you, buddy?
Very good, very good. Nika Futterman has always been one of my favorites. She has done such a tremendous job creating the voice and building the character of Asajj. that it's one of those that it's hard to imagine that character without that voice. And you see a picture of that character and you hear that voice. So it's hard to imagine anybody else doing that voice. So it was so awesome that they brought her back to continue the legacy of Asajj Ventress. Asajj, with Asajj coming back, and of course everything in Dark Disciple, that of course does generated a lot of heat for Lucasfilm at that point, because oh my gosh, the dead is alive again. It's not like they did it to Maul or Palpatine. I mean, technically they did it to Ahsoka. It's everybody comes back to life in Star Wars. Death is not the end in Star Wars, apparently. And I have to go back to the statement that Brad Rowell made when all of this hoopla was happening after the trailer was released, where he said that we don't want to spoil anything, but we want fans to know that any new storytelling with Ventress will align with the events of Dark Disciple. So she still died in Dark Disciple. I got my theories based on how she died with Dark Disciple and where she was left by Obi and Quinlan Voss. So I got my theories on that, which all evolves around the dark magic of the Night Sisters, but because we know they have resurrecting powers. We thought Taliesin was dead. She showed up in the season 6 of Clone Wars again, disembodied but alive. So it was. There's a lot of potential storytelling there, and with the fact that we're seeing the Great Mothers in the Ahsoka series, and we're returning to Dathomir, it would not surprise me if we get a short something about Ventress because of Dathomir. That wouldn't surprise me. That was a great call, David. But nothing's been announced. Obviously, they got something up their sleeve because they even said they have something up their sleeve. We don't want to spoil anything. Even on StarWars.com, if you go through the episode guide, it requotes David Rouse quote, and it says, and it actually has the statement, and I'm going to read this for y'all because it goes right along with it to prove that they got something up their sleeves. It says, Ventress's final line in the episode, "I've got a few lives left," seems to indicate that there's more to her return in Star Wars The Bad Batch than we yet know. So if they're telling us something is coming without telling us something is coming, I mean, it's there in black and white. You just got to read between the lines. So whenever it comes, we'll be grateful.
Yeah.
And you know what?
What I was going to say is, I think we know there's supposed to be Tales of the Jedi season 2. We just don't know when this year. I think this year, but Star Wars animation has been incredible, and I just can't imagine them not having something else lined up beyond Tales of the Jedi, and it sounds like it's going to be this.
Well, we don't speculate. We never have, David. You know that.
Well,
and we don't talk rumors or anything like that. But I did hear a few rumors today, unsubstantiated, but I have heard some rumors today that I will let you know about off the air. Okay. But there is stuff out there that people are talking about. So whether it's true or not, I don't know. We'll see. But it would be interesting if it is.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Anywho, let's keep the ball rolling here, and let's actually, you know what? Yeah, let's keep the ball rolling. Let's talk about Asajj and Omega. Because I made the statement earlier, and I really have felt like this through after watching this episode and through all my rewatches. That's how I felt. She felt more like a Jedi master. She was acting more like Kanan Jarrus. She was acting more like Luke Skywalker in the sequels, more like Obi-Wan. She felt like a Jedi master. The way she was talking to Omega, the way she tested Omega, the way she handled Omega, the way she connected with the creature out at sea. So we and of course we know from her past she was initially a Jedi Padawan. It was there. So she has that connection to the Force. She has that strong midi-chlorian count. She is obviously able to connect with nature, but it felt like, the events of Dark Disciple had a larger impact on her than anticipated, and has taken her back to her Jedi roots. And the way she carries and interacts with people, which I found extremely fascinating. And I wanted to get both of y'all's thoughts on this. Especially when it comes to how Quinlan ties into this, because, you've read Dark Disciple, have you, Anthony?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify before I threw something in your court that you like, I've never read the book. And I'm like, oh, Carabas. I use that word a lot. I don't know why. I don't think it means what you think it means. Anyhow, yeah. So I completely Carabas at this moment. So I've completely lost my train of thought. All right. So she's trading more like she's with her relationship. We're seeing her interactions with Omega. She's acting more like a Jedi master. And of course, seeing the Ventress we had back then in Clone Wars, obviously a huge shift. Quinlan definitely had an impact. And I wanted to get y'all's thoughts on the progression of this character to where she is now and her more Jedi-esque behaviors toward Omega and everything, because we saw a little bit of the old Ventress come out when she started fighting Hunter, Wrecker, and Crosshair, but she still has that. When it came to Omega, she had that master apprentice feel to it. And I'm just going to leave that ball in y'all's courts. Duke it out, y'all.
You want to take it, Anthony?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is peak Ventress for me, I would say. This is the best of both worlds. This is clearly the impact of Quinlan Vos from the events of Dark Disciple, as you noted. She's exhibiting aspects of the light, but also she still has that aspect of the dark. I think maybe in some would argue that this is perhaps the best way to yield the Force. A little bit of both. That's a healthy way to live your life, right? I think if we take from Star Wars what we are, like what we can from this hyper fantasy space opera to the real world, right? We're not perfect beings. We have aspects of good and evil within all of us. And then this is Ventress being more mature and taking her experiences of life and then trying to help this child out through this incredible manhunt that they're currently undertaking. The entire Empire is trying to find this one clone child out there in the universe that may have Force ability, and she has to see if there's some truth to it or not. No, I have no idea. It goes to one of my many questions from the episode itself as to how she's able to determine if she has a midi-chlorian count or not based off of those trials or tests that they did throughout the course of the episode. This isn't Qui-Gon pulling out like a little like jab stick and then pricking Anakin's fingers and then getting a count from that and testing that sample. So I don't know how she's necessarily able to do that in this setting, but I think this is a really great instance of a different type of mentorship, frankly. She has that snarkiness to her, that kind of banter that I think is very true to Ventress's character overall. I think it's great that you mentioned Kanan, Aaron, because that is actually kind of what I was, without thinking it, now that you have kind of imprinted that thought into my brain, I'm like, yeah, there is a little bit of that Kanan mentorship in this, especially early Kanan too, where he's still kind of reluctant to do it. I don't know if I want to train this kid or not in this. And I don't know if this leads to something in the future, perhaps. I think the question is certainly out there. The thought is out there of where this series goes from here. Is this setting up, perhaps, Omega leaving the Bad Batch to further her training more? She says clearly in the episode, I want to learn more about myself. And if this is an aspect that she wants to learn more, how do you wield the Force and go off? Maybe Ventress is that teacher for her, and we get more stories of that later on. So, frankly, at the end of the day, if you're a Ventress fan, this is the best episode. This is the best case scenario for you, because they don't pull out the PowerPoint presentation during the episode and go, this is how I survived the events of Dark Disciple, you see, because the members of the Bad Batch don't even know what happened. They don't even know who she is, frankly. In fact, I was watching the episode with subtitles on my second watch, and they don't even, when Ventress talks, they don't even refer to her as Ventress when she speaks. It's just as person until they discover who she is, and then it switches to Ventress. So, just interesting tidbits along the way that showcase, like, they don't know who this person is. They don't care. As long as Omega is safe and protected, then that's all that matters to them. So that's where I kind of line at that point in this episode. And I think Ventress just continues to be one of the more interesting characters throughout all of the Star Wars stories that we're getting with her. And I hope to continue that more. So I'm glad she's returned, and I'll take more Ventress stories in whatever capacity we get.
Very good. Very good. David?
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that. I think Anthony really laid it out so well. I would say this, going back to Dark Disciple, I love Christy Golden and what she did with that book and the scripts and stuff. And not only do we see, Quinlan influencing Asajj, but vice versa. Yeah, like it's you see him struggle with some of the stuff on the dark side. I think ultimately both influence each other for the better, and you can see that over the course of the book, and how Christy does it is so good. And I was thinking back to that episode where Boba, they're trying to deliver something. I'm trying to remember. It's Asajj is with Boba and with Lots, Razi, and Heisinger and all that, and you can see that, like, again, Asajj starting to change. Doesn't have this young girl, which is the bounty, turned over to this creepy alien guy who wants, a young bride. If you guys remember this episode, and all of a sudden, the crate opens up and here's Boba who rolls out, and he's all upset. But again, it's kind of like what Aaron, you've talked about a lot, and we ask people in our reactions chat episodes, which is, what are your favorite themes? And almost inevitably, we always go back to redemption, and you see Asajj turning for the better here. And I do like seeing her be in a teaching role with Omega and going over like 3 different lessons. So I think, like Anthony said, this is a best case scenario for Asajj fans. This is setting up to be pretty cool. Now it'd be interesting to see if we see her the rest of the show, or if we don't. So again, that's all yet to be determined. So yes.
Yeah, it's definitely yet to be determined. I don't know. I would, if this is the only episode we get to see Asajj, I'm going to be. It's going to leave a lot of people scratching their heads for it being such a staple of the trailer. It was your linchpin in the trailer. For it not to for there not to be anything else, that would be that'd be worrisome. It'd be surprising.
I go back to I remember, I can't remember if Dan Z from Coffee with Kenobi was talking about this just prior to the season started or after we got the first 3. But Dan said something. He says, I would have preferred a trailer that didn't show her. And this is before she showed up here in episode 9, and he only had the first 8, right?
Yeah.
So he didn't know what episode she was showing up in. But as I look back on it, yeah, I would have liked that to have been a surprise. Like the three of us are watching, all of a sudden she comes out of the shadows.
Yeah.
And then it's like you said, Aaron, then it's not this, then we're not have this problematic aspect like you have her in the trailer. No, it's just kind of like, oh wow, what a surprise. It's kind of like people talk about Darth Maul in the double-bladed lightsaber. Do you show that or do you leave that for the movie? And people are like, wait, what? I don't know. I guess you can make an argument either way. You want to get people in the theater with Bad Batch season 3, you want people to be like, oh my gosh, I get it. But I think I'm leaning towards I would have preferred it to be that we just found out yesterday, when it premiered. But
well, either way, we found out and we got it, and now we're scratching our heads. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens, literally. So. All right. Well, we've still got some more to talk about, and we are having a great time, but we are going to take a quick break. So hang with us. David, Anthony, and I will be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Aaron and David here with our guest, Anthony King from Force Ghost Conversations. We're talking Harbinger, the 9th episode of the 3rd and final season of The Bad Batch. So let's continue this conversation. And of course, we've been talking pretty much this entire show about Asajj Ventress and her triumphant return to Star Wars. But there's something else we need to talk about who had their triumphant return to Star Wars. And those are those pesky little microscopic creatures in everybody's blood. You know them. You love them from episode 1. Welcome back to the Midi-Chlorians to Star Wars. Appropriate to bring them back coming up on the 25th anniversary of episode 1. I honestly thought they had steered clear of those for a long time. I didn't think we would hear Midi-Chlorians again, but as soon as they started talking M count, I knew it was coming back. How do you feel about Midi-Chlorians being back in Star Wars lore, David?
Well, they actually say the word, right? In this episode. I wasn't sure if they were going to. Asajj finally does say it. Omega doesn't put it together and say, oh, that's the M&M count, which is fine. I guess, we've talked about this a little bit before, and maybe Anthony, you've talked about this, is what George Lucas used it for 25 years ago in 1999 when The Phantom Menace came out. It was a storytelling device, right, to convey to us in the audience sitting there watching episode 1, okay, how special is Anakin? Well, how do you convey that? Well, very quickly they're able, Qui-Gon tests his blood. Asajj does not have that. None of this is laying around. She has to figure out different ways to test it. But it's a way for us to hear that he has a higher, force ability or midi-chlorian count than even Master Yoda. And so you understand why they do that. Now, the three of us have seen the M-count stuff introduced in Mandalorian, and so on, right, in this storytelling process. And again, a lot of people say, hey, this is an effort to, make the rise of Skywalker make more sense and more understandable and so on. But I don't mind it. I think, kind of like the three of us said, we've gotten 2 episodes in a row here where we're kind of like, are we gonna figure this out? I think one of the big questions I have, and I had shot this over to Greg McLaughlin at the Rebel Base Card podcast, was, will, with the Midi-Chlorians and all of this, will the Bad Batch, will they ultimately figure out what this is and what it means? They know it's something with blood now, and your force ability and Jedi and stuff like that. But I don't know that they'll ever really catch wind of what the Emperor is trying to do here in terms of cloning himself. So again, I think it's kind of fun. I think it's a neat little continuation. It's a through line, and it's trying to make for consistent storytelling. So I don't have a problem with it. It's consistent with what we heard 25 years ago. What do you think, Anthony?
Boy, did you guys get the right guy on the podcast for this week, because I love Midi-Chlorians. I have been on the edge of my seat each and every week ever since the beginning of the season when they said M count, to be like, just say the words, you coward, just say it. And they've been teasing us the last couple of weeks here very closely with like Rex being like, M count, I don't remember hearing that. And then they were so close to saying it a few times, and then I was just like, they're just trying not to say it at this point. Someone better say it. And let me be honest, I think the last time they've said it in a Star Wars canon piece that was visually done, whether it be TV or animated, live action, whatever, I think it was 2012, 2013, season 6 of the Clone Wars, I believe was the last time it was said, actually. So it's been 12 years to this point since then, at least. And if you were to tell me that the next person to say the word in canon in timeline, not timeline in Star Wars timeline, but our timeline, humanity's timeline, if Ventress would be saying that word, I would have been like, are you kidding? Are you crazy? Like, this is not on my bingo card whatsoever. I'd imagine it's someone else saying at this point. So it's just cool that it's back in the fray. I'm a kid that grew up with the prequel trilogy. I love the Phantom Menace wholeheartedly. I have always appreciated the concept of what Midi-Chlorians have stood for. Not just the concept of understanding the Force in that way, but I think, and also to showcase how the Jedi have really at that time have strayed away from the glory days, the High Republic days that they're trying to showcase now in books and TV shows, where they've gotten so dogmatic to the Force has become a process, right? They're like, here is the threshold by which we will even take someone in to start training them as a Force user, because it's easier. We don't need to spend as much time training them, and the discipline and the natural Force ability is right there. David, you make a great point too. It's a great, easy, quick 20-second way to explain to an audience how exceptional Anakin is, right? You just can't do a pod race and tell them like, oh, a kid shouldn't be able to do this. No, you tell them that he's stronger than Master Yoda. That's something we can all understand easily, because we know how powerful of a Force user Yoda is from Empire Strikes Back and all the subsequent stories around that. So I'm very happy that's back. Just hearing the word, especially said in a nonchalant way that she did, she didn't just be like, M count, that is your Midi-Chlorian count. She didn't just talk real slow and look straight at the camera and tell the audience that. No, she just said in a basic sentence, pretty much like, I can't test your Midi-Chlorian count. Number of Midi-Chlorians you have easily, or something like that. It's just in almost a throwaway sentence, right? But it was enough for me to just be like, they finally said it. They said it. Take that, everybody. We've won. It was just really cool to hear again. So I'm glad that it's back. It's like almost like a check off the list that I was looking for in the storytelling the last couple of years. And I don't know what all this means. Is it because Omega is so exceptional of a clone that she can transfer the Midi-Chlorian count to a host clone body? Is that what she's needed for? I don't know what all this entails. Obviously, they're still working on Project Necromancer at the time of The Mandalorian, and it's really not even perfected by the time of Rise of Skywalker even. So, there's a lot of stories to be told yet in this front. We're just kind of getting bits and pieces along the way. We've only got 5 episodes left of the show. I can't imagine they're going to dive in too much further with how much else they've got going on, and they need to wrap this up in some tangible way too. So logistically, I don't know what more they can do on this front. But just as a fan of the Phantom Menace, I know it's still controversial, but I'm glad that they just threw that nugget out there for us. That I feel satiated as a fan. I can wait another 12 years before I hear it again.
Very good, very good. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I really wasn't pro or con Midi-Chlorians, so it was just one of those things that they just kind of walked away from at one point. So it's nice to have them back. It adds a level to storytelling that Star Wars just had, and just kind of, yeah, okay, whatever. There's so much they can do with that, and I'm excited to see where they take it and how it rolls from there. So yeah, we'll see. So, and of course, how it ties into Necromancer as well, since y'all brought that up. It'll be interesting to see how that ties in with, and it's, of course, they're all bringing all this together and tying up, I would say, loose ends from those movies, using some fantastic storytelling. So I'll take it any day of the week. I don't care what loose ends they tie up, as long as they keep giving me awesome stories like this, I'm fine. I don't care. Tie it up, make it better. So there we go. Now, of course, we would be dismissed if we didn't sit back and talk about the trials that Asajj puts Omega through. Then, of course, while she's on the trials, of course, the kung fu fighting that everybody does, because, everybody loves kung fu fighting. Their moves weren't as fast as Asajj's. So they had a great time there, obviously.
That's so bad. Carabast. I'm calling Carabast.
Start a new segment called the Dad Songs of the Week.
No, we've already got the dad jokes of the week. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
all right, sorry.
Double segment. Dad joke, dad song. All right, back on target. Stay on target. The fight. Let's talk about the fight. I want to talk about that fight because it's definitely a 3-on-1 match between Hunter, Wrecker, and Crosshair versus Ventress. And for once in their lives, with a 3-on-1 advantage, the Bad Batch are at a disadvantage. They could have had Echo and Tech, and they still would have gotten their butts handed to them by Asajj. But Hunter and Asajj, especially when they went hand to hand with each other, was just incredible to see. To me, I even got a little bit of a Matrix feel to their fight for a second there, when they were up close to switching punches and blocking each other's hits for a second. But it was a lot of fun to see. And it was something we had not seen in the Bad Batch. That kind of, we've seen them fight. We've seen them gunfights. We've seen space battles. We've seen fights, but not something like this. And I loved the level of action and the level of disadvantage. I mean, the Bad Batch has always been at a disadvantage going against large numbers, but for them to have the numbers advantage and still be at a disadvantage, that just makes that's just good storytelling right there. And of course, I know you brought this up in your opening reactions, Anthony. So I want to give the floor to you. Let's talk about the fight, my friend. What were your thoughts, and what was your favorite parts of Ventress versus the Batch?
Well, I'll be honest. My first initial reaction, it kind of just took me out of it. I don't know how it was for you guys in watching when you experienced it for the first time, but did it seem like slower to you all? Did it seem choppy? Did it feel like that they were maybe doing like some homage to like stop motion and how they were constructing the choreography?
Well, you see that's why I said it felt very Matrixy to me. Because there toward when in the Matrix toward the end, when Neo finally accepts the reality and he's realizing he's got these powers and the agents are attacking him, and he's literally standing there just moving his one arm and looking at his hand while he's deflecting all these punches from this agent. Then he just puts it behind him and he's just slow, and they'll have real fast that it'll slow down, and he ends up just completely taking the guy out with one hand. That's the Matrix feel I was getting. It kind of slowed it down. They had some fast action, then it just kind of slowed down into this visually incredible fight. Then sped back up. So that's where I was coming from with Matrix. So yeah, I'm on the same page with you. I felt it.
Cool. Yeah. I won't say it was good or bad that it took me out of it. It's just one of those things where like, oh, hey, that was different. It just I wasn't expecting that. Let's just say that. I think that's probably a better way to frame it. And then once it took me a second to get back into it, and I'm like, okay, this is actually really great, really well done fight choreography. Like they've really stepped up their game. I will say the Bad Batch, the people animating it behind the scenes, doing all this work. In terms of the lighting of the show, the thinking through like the camera motions, the actual animation itself, they've really stepped up their game, I will say, in this season compared to some of the others. Not that any of those were any different or worse or anything like that, but I think they've really just done they've taken up their game. They've upped their ante. They know this is the last season. They're ready to bring it down home for the conclusion here. So it's a good action sequence, I'll say. I liked how, story-wise, Omega, she was like, Omega, go over there while we have a conversation over here, basically. And then when she comes back, she's like, what did I just stumble into? That was pretty just a good, funny way to showcase the whole situation. And of course, just, again, these three clones, like you said, Aaron, so the best of what they can do. At all aspects of it, right? Even Wrecker, even, like you said, I doubt Tech or Echo, if they had been available, would have added too much to this situation. Just goes to show, again, that even the Bad Batch has their limitations of what they can protect against, even despite their best intentions, right? So I wonder if this will have lasting ramifications as the series progresses, because they do put, like Ventress does put that thought in their head, like, you may need to let her go so she can learn how to protect herself using the abilities she has, rather than just relying on you guys protecting her forever.
Yeah.
So it does suggest that perhaps this could be something that needs to be addressed down the line.
Very good. Very good. David, how about you, brother?
Yeah. I started thinking about it. I had flashbacks of the Genndy Tartakovsky micro series.
Ooh, even good.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Right, with Asajj, and when she's first introduced there, and Dooku's, watching her just mow through, like that
episode rocks.
Right, just this Armageddon laden, baddies that are just way bigger, stronger, fire breathing, throwing rocks the size of buildings at each other. Without
lightsabers too.
Right. And so, it does. It kind of gives you this kind of pecking order. And you think about, like, Asajj, who's so strong in the Force, and, I think about Jedi or Sith and what they can do to normal clone troopers. And then when you look at, these especially talented Bad Batch clones, they're still not going to be able to compete with someone the likes of Ventress or a Quinlan Vos or Obi-Wan Kenobi or Anakin, stuff like that. So it shows that. And I do think, like Anthony said, I'm starting to do a whole lot of speculation in my mind that, again, I won't say here, about the training that she probably needs, and her Asajj fighting them could be a message conveying to them, hey, I can really show her how to protect herself, even hand to hand, without blasters, without a lightsaber, etc. And then you add all that on to Omega, and she'll be a force to be reckoned with. But I'm leaning in on what Anthony's saying.
Very good. Very good. Now, I do have to ask this question, because I would, especially after this episode, yes or no, do you think Omega is force sensitive? David?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Well, gosh, I don't know. Like Anthony mentioned a minute ago, what's not clear is this whole blood thing and how does this work? And okay, your blood was able to take the Emperor's. Is that the only thing they need? They need, is it just that you just happen to have a high midichlorian count, or like we said, if you have a higher one, you can be trained more easily. So, okay, I'm going to go with what I initially said. Yeah, I think she's, probably stronger in the Force, right? Maybe more than Sabine that we saw in Ahsoka, right? I mean, we heard what Professor Huang said about her. So I'm guessing Sabine's midichlorian count is really low, whereas Omega's is pretty high.
Okay. Anthony, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to say yes, too. I think given the test, I will say, that they did of her blood, I think that's going to be probably my best indicator that there is something to her midichlorian count to suggest that she would have force-wielding abilities, potentially, given the training, the discipline, the time that it takes to master such a thing. I do agree with David that it probably would be a lot quicker than Sabine's training, and probably a lot easier because Omega seems to be more of a listener when it comes to doing the tests and trials that are placed in front of her. So I'm going to say right now, yes. I have no idea how most of those trials that she undertook would indicate that she has force abilities. Aside from that last one, that would probably be the best way to indicate. But again, she didn't really have the training to know what to do and then she sees it, so she therefore believes it. So then maybe she's able to tap into it later. So I would say right now, yes.
Okay. Very good. Very good. I'm going to play devil's advocate. I say no. Because, and I could be wrong. I could just be remembering wrong, but I could have sworn in one of the earlier episodes of this season, I think it was right there at the beginning, when Hemlock is talking to Palpatine about the project, and he talks about how they are successfully they're having the successful in count tests and the transfers are going successful, but they're not maintaining.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds to me they're looking for a specific, they're trying to transfer midichlorians into clones to boost it, which would make sense if they're wanting to clone Palpatine. If clones can't have midichlorians, which is what Asajj said, she's never seen a clone that was force sensitive. It would make sense that they're looking for a specific type of clone that would accept the high content midichlorian transfer that Palpatine would have. So that's why I'm saying no. I think she just, because she's a pure copy of Jango, she's a pure clone. Her blood's not as degraded as the constant replicas that we see with the 99s and the regs or anybody else, any other clone. So that's where I'm thinking. So, but
you're no fun. So Anthony and I are fun. No, just makes sense, Aaron. Whatever, just be a party pooper.
Hey, by the end of this series, you never know. You may see her doing the backflips with the little lightsaber like Yoda used to do in episode 2.
True.
So you never know. But that's what makes Star Wars fun, is we don't know and we're learning together. And we can have different opinions and different ideas and different thoughts. And it doesn't matter as long as we're all still having fun.
I will say to that point, it would be great just for them to do maybe 10 minutes of exposition where Hemlock just explains what the whole M count and Project Necromancer that they're trying to implement is, because I'm seeing so many different theories online of what it actually is and isn't. It'd be nice for them just to clearly point out, this is the goal here, this is why we need this is why she's important. It would be it'd be so great to just have a final answer on that one.
Yeah, it needs they need to do it like, a Bond villain. They got Hunter over the pit ready to die.
Yes,
Well, since you're
exactly.
going to die, this is what's going on. Oh, just leave it like that. But I think that would be pretty stinking funny in my book. But yeah, it'd be fun to have that kind of exposition, or somebody goes into Tanis, gets transferred to Tanis, and next thing you know, you see a welcome to Tanis employee handbook video. These are what we're doing. Orientation video, something. I don't know. It'd be fun to see that. See that exposition, because we'd like to know. But I got a feeling we're not going to find out by the end of the series. It's going to carry on past this. I got a feeling. So.
Oh yeah.
Perfect. Well, any other talking points that we have not hit on that y'all want to talk about before we move into final reactions?
I'm good.
Good. We're good. All right. Perfect. Well, let's do it. Well, final reactions. I'll go ahead and kick that off. It was a fun episode. I did enjoy it. I liked having Asajj back. I was expecting more, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It was an interesting episode. I loved the difference in the character of Asajj that we talked about earlier. I love the difference in the almost leadership Jedi masterish role she carried in this, and I thought that was pretty fun. I like seeing I like seeing Crosshair too. I mean, Crosshair was actually interacting with people. We didn't even talk about that because it was just a small throwaway moment, but he was actually interacting with the locals there on Pabu, and which is good, because you see that's his healing process. He's healing, and he's healing and becoming more out of his shell than he was before he went through all this trauma. So it's good to see that he's healing and growing, which is awesome to see. All part of his redemption journey there. Of course, Kevin Kiner, mwah, love that. Love those. Love him. Love Kevin Kiner and his family and all their hard work on this music. Fabulous work. Absolutely lovely. And man, they better hurry up and tell me what the connection is with Dark Disciple, because if they don't, I'm just going to lose my mind in speculation. So I really need that plot hole filled quickly. So David, how about you, brother? What are your final reactions?
Yeah, I think I after the end of the episode, just like both of you said, I think I was like kind of like the kind of thing, and I was a bit nervous about how they're going to wrap this series up, because I was thinking about the future episodes that are left. We don't have much, but then I just had to think to myself that when Lucasfilm Animation has the time to finish a series like the Clone Wars, when they were allowed to come back and finish it up, when Filoni had the 4 seasons of Rebels, they landed. They've done it, and so I just had to think that through for a minute, and I'm definitely strongly in the stance that they will nail it. I think about what Anthony said a few minutes ago about, how are they going to resolve this? We know they're going to go to Tantus, right? They've talked about it. Rex has talked about it. They want to free their brothers. Omega wants to go back there. So I'm guessing they're going to obviously have to find the coordinates to the planet Wayland, right, and find Mount Tantus and go from there. So I don't think we're going to see, again, we're not going to see the answers to all this. I would love to get the 10 minutes of exposition Anthony mentioned by Hemlock, just kind of explain it, and we know, and okay, and that's what they're trying to do, even all the way up to, the rise of Skywalker, when we see the Emperor come down on that crane, yeah, I think after this episode, I think we're going to really see this pick up and really kind of be a race to the finish. But I am curious how they will resolve this in a certain way. M count won't be fully resolved because we see it continue for years and years and years. But the other stuff, the big other Clone War that we've talked about between the clones and the conscripted stormtroopers. So looking forward to that, but overall enjoyed it.
Perfect. Anthony, your turn, brother. Tell me what you think, what your final reactions are to Harbinger.
Yeah, this is a really solid episode. I think the title is The Harbinger, and I think Asajj Ventress did an excellent job in playing that role of someone that brings forth a lot of questions and truths that perhaps the Bad Batch, the group Hunter, Wrecker, Crosshair, weren't thinking of or processing or willing to accept at the time. So just a few of those I can think off the top of my head are like, what is Omega's role in this ever-changing galaxy? Why is the Empire hunting after her? Why is what is their capabilities to protect her both now and in the future? Is Pabu really the safest place in order to keep them safe both now and in the future again? Because I feel like it gets teased every couple of weeks here that the destruction of Pabu is imminent. So I just hope that they rip that Band-Aid off sooner than later to keep us fans from, wondering if they're going to be safe or not on this planet, or if this refuge for clones is going to keep existing. I want these guys that have lived through such the horrors of a galactic war in order to have that peace and quiet that they deserve in this post-war era. So this is great reintroduction back to Ventress. I think if anything, this episode, amidst all of the questions that it poses for the future and some of the answerless answers that we get, this episode is a wonderful advertisement for the book Dark Disciple by Christy Golden. It's one of those books that I always recommend to folks when they are asking, I want to dive into the expanded universe of Star Wars. Where should I start? And I say Dark Disciple by Christy Golden is absolutely the place to go, because it is both familiar and unfamiliar. It is set in the Clone Wars. It's some of those unfinished scripts when Disney took over, and then the Clone Wars is canceled, and they utilize some of those scripts in order to create the novel. Showcases Ventress to a high degree, Quinlan Vos as well, another fan favorite from the Clone Wars. But you also get some of the Anakin and Obi-Wan flair in there as well, which is also great. And just get more of the sense of where the Jedi are at towards the end of the Clone War. Just really good clarifying details about that and where the Council is thinking of towards the end of that whole process. So I highly recommend that book. And again, I'm very excited for next week's episode as we hopefully get some more answers as the series kind of tries to wrap up, kind of doesn't wrap up. I don't know. We're just getting a lot of tip of the iceberg storytelling in this series. And I just want to preach to the audience again, patience. We may not get all the answers in this run. Maybe it's a few series over here. Maybe it's a series over here. Star Wars is an ever-changing and expanding universe. And just because the answers weren't given in this episode today, perhaps that you were looking for, doesn't mean that you're going to get it 2 years from now or 5 years from now in a different story, whether it be a book, a comic, television series, a movie. Who knows? I'd say Lucasfilm and Star Wars creators have done nothing but to earn our trust and respect when it comes to telling great stories, and we shouldn't be pressuring them or rushing them to tell stories that they aren't prepared or ready yet to do. So that's where I ended at this point. It's a solid episode, and I can't wait to see where they go from here.
Very good. Yeah, I agree with you. We have to trust where they know where we're going. It brings me to my favorite saying, in Filoni we trust.
That's right.
He has never led us wrong. So we will see. He's got his plan, and I know it will be good. So I am looking forward to see where it goes. Now, of course, we want to hear from you and find out what y'all think of Harbinger and about this final season of Bad Batch. You can actually do that many different ways. You can, of course, message us on any of our social media platforms. We're on Facebook and X at SW Reactions Pod. We are on Instagram, Threads, Pinterest, TikTok, and Tumblr at SW Reactions, Blue Sky as well at SW Reactions. And of course, you can email us swreactions@gmail.com, or you can even send us a voicemail just by visiting Facebook.com/Star Wars Reactions. David, my friend, this brings us to your psychology factoid. So the floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, I'll do a quick factoid here. This one is on AI, and I could talk pretty extensively about this, but let's just keep it short and sweet because we've already been recording quite a while. But let me just say this. In terms of Americans and employment, there's a lot of feeling of instability due to AI. And so here's two quick little factoids. And one is for workers worried about AI, and another one is about workers not worried about AI. Let's start with the first one. 75% of workers who are worried about AI are worried that new forms of tech will take over some or all work duties in the next 10 years. It's 23% of workers not worried about AI who are worried that new forms of tech will take over some or all work duties in the next 10 years. So I think I'll be talking about this a little bit more. My brand new APA Monitor has an extensive article on this, the ethics of it, some of the problems with it, what can we embrace, what should we really check and make sure that there's not problems with. But fascinating area here coming up. But just two little quick factoids about AI.
Very good. Very good. David, and if somebody wants to talk about the factoid with you or talk about Star Wars in general, how would they go about doing that, my friend?
Yeah, you and I always talk Twitter X. That's the best way, at David_Modders, Modders. Instagram, I haven't put a lot there, but it's just simply my name, David Modders. And I'm also at Blue Sky. People can find me there. I do need to jump over there and see what's going on. But yeah, those are three easy places to find me.
Very good. And of course, you can find me always on the show social media, or you can hit me up on my personal X at TA Harris 121079. Anthony, why don't you take a few moments, tell our listeners where they can find you online, and tell them about Force Goes Conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am the host of Force Goes Conversations. It's your cozy home for deep dive discussions into all things Star Wars and Lucasfilm adjacent things. So we'll talk about Indiana Jones and Willow, and frankly, just about anything else that I can connect to the Star Wars galaxy anytime. So, we have a wide range of topics that we talk about, but, right now we're doing all Bad Batch discussions. My wife, this is her favorite Star Wars property, so she has full reign to come onto to our podcast, and talk about the Bad Batch. So we've been doing that weekly. So looking forward to the next couple of weeks here as the show wraps up, and then of course Acolyte is right down the pipeline too. So if you liked what you heard today and want to continue listening to what we do over there, you can find us on all the podcast platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, really any place that you can find a podcast these days. Just search for Force Goes Conversations and we'll probably be there. And if you want to continue the conversation on social media channels, we're available on X, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Hive. Just search for Force Goes Conversations and we'll be there in some capacity. So look forward to having wonderful conversations with you all over there. And thanks again, David and Aaron, for having me on the show today.
Well, definitely. We will appreciate you coming on with us and joining us. And of course, we'll have links to your show and of course to your socials there online in our show notes. So you can always go there and quickly find Anthony and his show whenever you are ready. You will enjoy it. So definitely give it a listen. So, well, that brings us to the end of the show, guys. You know what that means, don't you?
It's the end of the show. There's nothing, right?
Means it's time for the best part of the show. Not the end music. not my final goodbye. But it's time for the Star Wars dad joke of the week.
The best part of having a guest every week on this, I am not alone and during this. Anthony, you're with me. I'm so thankful.
That's right. We're in this together.
We're all in this together.
We're in this together. And it's made it so much easier during this coverage of the Bad Batch. So, all right, Aaron, lay it on us.
All right. Well, of course, as I have been the last couple weeks, I have been pulling jokes from the Star Wars Dad Joke book coming out, the best, worst jokes and puns from a galaxy far, far away, written by Kelly Knox and illustrated by Johnny Sampson. We're recording this Thursday, March 28th. It's coming out on Tuesday, guys, April 2nd. So make sure you grab your copy when it comes out and be prepared for all the dad jokes you could possibly get, because I'm having fun with this. It's 128 pages of just absolute glory, in my opinion. So I am loving this. So this joke is straight from the Star Wars Dad Joke book. So here we go. Have you met the rogue archaeologist, Dr. Afra?
I'm not sure how we answer that. Yes, no.
Well, either way, her career's in ruins.
Oh my God. Oh, that's actually good.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Either way you'd answered, it worked.
Oh,
love it. Anthony, my friend, thank you so much for joining us again. You're welcome back anytime on Star Wars Reactions. We'd love to have you back again to hang out and talk and just have some fun. So,
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. David, brother, fun as always.
Oh, great time. Just so thankful to record with you again, Aaron, every time. And Anthony, you're a pro, man. And so thankful that you were on with us. I think this was the perfect episode to have you on. And I just, just like I love talking Star Wars with Aaron, I really love talking Star Wars with you.
Oh, that means a lot. Thanks so much, David.
Yeah.
Very good. Always. We love y'all. All you listeners, y'all are the best. We appreciate y'all. We thank y'all for listening. Y'all are the best. We're praying for y'all, wishing y'all the best. Remember, as I say each week, this is the year of kindness. Do something good for somebody this week. It'll change their lives. It'll change your life, and you'll be surprised what the impact of just a little kind act can be for somebody. So go out and do it. Remember, this is your place for elegant discussion for a more civilized age.
If you'd like to share your thoughts, you can email us at show@starwarsreactions.com for our show notes and the latest news from the Star Wars universe. Visit our website at www.starwarsreactions.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at SWReactionsPod or on Facebook at Star Wars Reactions. If you enjoy our show, please leave a review on iTunes. This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or by Lucasfilm Limited. It's intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars. All names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and the respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Star Wars Reactions unless otherwise indicated. Star Wars Reactions. Elegant discussion for a more civilized age.